right, YouTube? This is Mr. Mean coming at you this fine Sunday evening, October 6th at about 8 p.m. on the Discords. I've got Mr. Jason Duff, the brainchild behind Heroes and Hardships, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and other stuff that sparks our interest. As always, leave a like, subscribe if you love it, join the Discord, join the Patreon, help support the channel, $5 a month. Go support this awesome indie game designer on Drive-Thru RPG, and I'll put all of his socials in the show notes. As always, let's get into it. Mr. Jason, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. The beard's coming in. I feel like a human again.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I live in the land of the white snow.
I can't grow a beard, so it's not, yeah, it's not good for me.
You know, I'm creeping up on 60. I still got a full head of hair and a beard, so I'm happy. I can't complain. I know people half my age that are bald and can't grow a beard. So hey,
Yeah, I get some big hair. It's kind of wet right now, but it's big.
it's all good. So tell us who you are, what you do, and obviously why you would be on my channel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Jason Duff, and I live in Colorado, the Rocky Mountains, and I publish games, particularly Heroes and Hardships. My company is called Earl of Fife Games. I'm the lone employee, I guess you could say. I do work with freelancers of all type, writers, editors, artists, obviously, proofreaders and whatnot. But it's a one man shop as far as the decisions being made and all that stuff. But yeah, that's me.
Awesome. And your claim to fame so far is Heroes and Hardships, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've released probably 60 or 70 books, but Heroes and Hardships is the big one, and we have supplements for it. We probably have 20 supplements for it, something like that.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, and it was kickstarted in 2022, and it was delivered in March or May, somewhere like in that of 2023. So yeah, it's been out there for a little bit now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I'm old and foggy and stupid, right? Basically, my knuckles dragged around. How did we find each other?
I think that, boy, I think that one day I went and tried to find influencers to talk about Heroes and Hardships, and I don't know what happened. I don't think it originally happened for whatever reason, and then think I just joined the Discord one day afterwards, and people happened to be talking about Heroes and Hardships, and I was like, "Well, hey, that's my game." Hey, so yeah, I think it was just kind of by chance.
That's
really
awesome. So, well,
Yeah.
thank you because you are a subscriber, and I really appreciate it. And for those that don't know, Jason is he has his own Discord channel, which we'll put a link to down in the doobly-doo. Always awesome to give advice, super open, super approachable. I really appreciate that. My good buddy Brian was running a H&H game, Heroes and Hardships, and we did a fantasy one shot, and Jason was right there to offer advice and stuff. And so it was really cool. And it was nice to have the designer, like basically on hand to ask questions that we didn't get, because we all made our own characters. And so we had questions and stuff. Give me the 5-minute elevator pitch of H&H for those that don't know.
Yeah. So Heroes and Hardships is a universal role-playing game system. You want to compare it to other things, you would compare it to GURPS, Cypher System, Savage Worlds, things like that, Cortex Prime. So games like that, it falls into that genre mold, if you will. Genesis is another one. And the reason I made this because I didn't feel that there was well, if I back up a little bit, one of my favorite games ever is Legends of the Five Rings. As far as a system and the setting, but that's not really germane for this conversation. But yeah, so Legend of the Five Rings, fourth edition happens to be my favorite game of all time, and so I wanted to do a role keep mechanic. And add some things to H&H that is a little different from L5R, but it's probably a crunch medium plus game. What I mean by that is probably crunchier than Savage Worlds, probably less crunchy than GURPS in a way. It's very flexible, adaptable. I wanted to make it useful for any setting you could pretty much throw at it. And you can, as a GM or a player, you can easily make things up for it. And I wanted one thing I don't like about combat in a lot of games is that there's no real payout. There's no stake in it. Like if you have 100 hit points and you're going to get worn down over time. Oh, you need this many encounters a day to really tax your character. No, 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 none of that. It can be deadly combat system, but it's very flexible. You can tweak it how you want, and there's rules to make it that way. It's not like, well, you have to come up with a way to do it. Those are all in the book to tell you kind of how do you make it more deadly, how do you make it less deadly. Same with kind of magic and all my subsystems. I wanted to work in similar ways, so you didn't have to like that. When people say a game is real crunchy or fiddly, that's what it means to me. Is like you have a bunch of subsystems that have nothing to do with each other, so you have to remember one and then remember the other, and they have no connection to each other. H&H is not like that. All of them kind of work the same way. There's probably like 3 subsystems you have to learn, and from that you can learn everything else quite easily. So yeah, that's the elevator pitch for H&H.
That's a good pitch. I found it purely by accident. I am also a Legends of the Five Rings fan. Another story for another time, but John Wick used to be my roommate when I first got divorced and stuff, and John was super fun guy and stuff, and I'm a huge L5R fan, and I've run campaigns over the years various times. Lots of fun. It's a great game, and so I think I found you on DriveThruRPG after the Kickstarter, and then I was able to buy a book and everything, and loved it. It's a beautiful book. And then my first love is dwarves. I always play a dwarf if given the chance. And so when I saw the Kickstarter for this, Dungeons Deep and Caverns Old, using the universal RPG system of Heroes and Hardships, I was all in. And this is my book. Hey. Delivered on time and everything. It was really well done. You also did a 5e version, which I think did very well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we did a 5e version as well.
Yeah, and I like the cover because it's just kind of the opposite of the front cover, which I thought was kind of cool. The maps in here, great adventure in here for anybody who's thinking loves a Dwarven Hold campaign. It's very cool, and there's a couple neat twists. I haven't run this for my players yet, but I really need to because it's very well done, Jason. I applaud you because it's a lot of fun. It's a great read. The art in there is fantastic, and Dwarven women have beards. Yes.
They
correct.
can, yes.
It's proper. Yeah. They can. They don't have to, but they can, and it's proper. And
the main antagonist does have a beard.
Yes, yes. We won't give any more. And the picture of her is a badass. There's some cool monsters in there too. Some of your typical fantasy tropes, but man, they're done really well, and I really, really like it. It's a great adventure. Pick it up. It's on DriveThruRPG. Use my affiliate code. Hey, it helps me out. But it's really good. Jason, you do cool shit. You've put out a number of supplements. You've got a sci-fi one. You got a spaceship one. I mean, you got a GM supplement. You got an NPC. I mean, you got a ton of stuff for this game. So it's very well supported. First of all.
Yeah, like I said, there's about 20 supplements totals. There's bestiaries, there's adventures, the yin yang. There's a GM guide, a small like GM guide, kind of adds some optional rules to the game that didn't come into the game until after I was done with the core book, and I couldn't like slot them in.
That always happens.
Yeah, and there's how do you handle, like, you want to do an NPC on the fly, how do you do that and give them correct challenges, and just advice like that. It's like a little handbook that goes with it, but yeah,
it's really well done. For those that are curious too, everyone on my channel knows I'm a huge GURPS fan, and so I'm also a Genesis fan. So, and I've had a couple people ask me, well, where does it lie? And I would say, I think Genesis is crunchy. Can be crunchy as crazy, and GURPS, of course, is as crunchy as you want it to be. And it can be also pretty straightforward. If you just want to spit out a basic generic character, you can, and literally a couple of minutes. It's how granular you want to go. And I would say H&H falls somewhere in between there, because there's choices. There's lots of choices, but it's not. It doesn't make your head explode. I made my dwarven monk, and I had him up and going in less than 20 minutes. Could I have made him more in depth, by spending more time, spending some points in different ways? Yes, of course. But we wanted to get up and play, and I had a dwarf that was pretty powerful, and I was beating up undead left and right. It was a blast. My friend Brian ran the game, and we had a lot of fun. Very important to have lemons in your undead campaign for some reason. That's the big thing that stuck with me out of that game. But one of our friends of the channel, his wife makes swag for Mr. Mean, so you can get your mouse pad. But he was playing an archer, I believe, and used lemons. It was pretty hilarious, but it was a fun game. And the mechanics, it's a D10 roll and keep system. So if you're familiar with L5R, obviously you're gonna slide right into this game. You could play L5R using these rules. It's super easy. My thing was to do a superhero game, and I just never. I have tons of plans, never enough time is the problem. You'd be amazed how much time it takes to run a YouTube channel and how much effort and involvement comes into it. But it's worth it as far as I'm concerned. What I like about H&H is it's a universal system. I can play sci-fi, I can play fantasy, I can play magic, I can play modern day, gumshoe. You can do whatever you want. So with that being said, we've already got our dwarven supplement and all that fun stuff. What's next for H&H that you can tell us?
It's a good question. I'm really bad about forecasting what will come, in 6 months. I usually just kind of ponder it for a while, write stuff, have other people write stuff. We kind of talk. I'll get art, even complete full covers done, and not use them for years. It just because it's just like, well, what do I think is the best for the game at this time, and what am I interested in doing at the time? I think next year, it's kind of a boring one, but we're going to do a GM screen.
Yes.
We're going to kickstart a GM screen. I mean, it's going to be, it'll also have the core rulebook and all that stuff, so people who missed the first one can get into it this way. So it's kind of a thing to put it back on Kickstarter and kind of do that whole thing again. But as far as setting wise, it's tough. I think we're going to do a small Kickstarter in about a month or two, probably early December. We're going to try something small. I don't know if it's going to be H&H, but for H&H next year, we're definitely going to have more setting adventure type books until the end of the year, which I want to release kind of at least one of the big settings that I've been working on. One is a feudal Japanese setting, and the other is it's an easy way to call it is just Romans in space. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Those are my two big ones that I've been working on for years now. And I just need to kind of bring it all together. But they've been play tested and that sort of thing. And I think one of those two will be a big one kind of in the fall of next year.
Awesome.
But we're going to have smaller kind of setting adventures like Dungeons and Caverns Old in between there too.
Right.
So.
And you're also supporting, didn't you just do a Kickstarter for Mothership, or you're in the midst of that?
Yeah, so when we started out, I did primarily third party
Publishing.
third party games, and that was really to kind of practice my craft of not only writing for these games. I'm a technical writer in real life, quote unquote, and so practice a different style of writing, practice layouts and things that I would end up doing later on. Just kind of the understanding of everything that goes on in publishing, and kind of just kind of figured it out before I did before I put H&H out there in a manner that I wouldn't be proud of. And so we did a bunch of that stuff, and we continued to support things. for the health of the company,
Mm.
and just to bring in more people eyes looking at us. Maybe, hey, you'll get into H&H later, or other games. It's all good. But yeah, we just funded a mothership module called Heart of Tiberius. It will be out for H&H at some point.
Mhm.
And yeah, that just funded earlier this
That's
week.
awesome.
Yeah.
So happy to hear that. I I found Mothership years ago when it was still a zine, basically, and it was just a PDF. There was no physical book, and so
Yeah.
I have the original, and I liked it back then. But I'm not a horror player. You know, that's not my
Yeah.
jam. But the look of the book at the time, you know, the zine caught my eye. You know, the dead astronaut in the spacesuit laying, you know,
Yeah.
and it said Mothership, and I was like, what the hell is this? And it was like, I think it was like a GM Day sale for like $5, 250 or
Oh,
something.
I think it was free. That
Yeah,
that that PDF is free.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I
that
found it, and
early
I
one.
flipped through it, and I went, oh man, this is cool. And so then I saw they had a full set of PDFs and stuff, so I bought that.
Yeah.
I was a little, me personally, I was a little disappointed in the box set because I get where they were going. They wanted to do like an old, you know, like Red Box, an old
Mhm.
Dragon Age box set, you know, and I for the prices that they were charging just wasn't for me. Because I think to get the complete box set was like over $100, and I was just like, ouch, that's
Yeah,
pretty
I
steep.
don't remember, but here it is.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's super cool. Don't get me wrong, but I just for my pocketbook it was too steep. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And it's a game
Yeah.
I don't play. You know, I play Heroes and Hardship, so I can
Yeah.
justify, you know, buying the PDF, you know, or buying the physical book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that makes sense.
I back Dungeons Deep and Caverns Old just because, well, it's dwarves and it's freaking
Yeah, of
cool.
course.
I sadly didn't back the 5e one because I don't have
Oh, I
any
mean,
I don't
yeah.
have any
Why would
desire
you?
for anything
Why
5e.
would you? Why would you back both? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
wouldn't.
if I know people that
You.
play both.
It's kind of it is a little surprising. You can see like the trends of what people have backed of yours, and if they've backed. And it's like I have people that back both the H&H version and the 5e version. It's
Sure.
like I don't know these people. It's interesting that they would
Yeah.
do that.
Now I'll tell
That's
you, if you would have done a Pathfinder second edition version, I'd have backed it, even though I already have it for H&H. But
yeah,
I,
you know the path. I've been talking to people about kind of just about what is works on on Kickstarter crowdfunding, and like we find that there's not a lot of Pathfinder stuff out there. It's
mm-mm.
kind of strange. I don't really
Battle
understand why.
Zoo, the guys behind Battle Zoo have run
Yeah.
some successful Kickstarters. There's one, I think it's called Nightfall or something. It's a very
So
dark.
Night Fell, yeah, that's Angelo Peluso, who is actually if you open the inside covers of H&H, did that art
Oh,
himself.
okay. Let's just see here.
He did a lot of art in there. Actually, he's quite a good artist. A friend of mine. He's from Italy, but yeah, he does the inside cover of the back and front of
Which are awesome, by
H&H.
the way.
Yeah, so but
Yeah.
yeah, they did do a Pathfinder.
Yeah, Nightfall. It's
First.
like
Yeah.
it's an alternate setting where it's in the dark, like it's perpetually night or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I
I don't know
backed
the
it. I
details,
backed it.
unfortunately.
I didn't back it
Yeah.
at a ridiculous level, but I did kind of go all in to get the
Yeah.
books.
Back in the day, he asked me if I could design Pathfinder. He asked me, and I was like, "That's not me. Sorry,
Not my
I
jam.
can't. It's not." Yeah, it
You
could have
know,
been me. Hey.
aside from all the WotC and Hasbro crap
Yeah.
that is going on, it's just I ran 5e for years and I had a lot of fun doing it. And then I found Pathfinder Second Edition and I realized just the 3-action economy just makes D&D worthless in my opinion. I'm not bashing anybody who plays 5e. If you play it and you enjoy it, awesome. That's super cool. I always say this, if you're playing, I don't care what you're playing, as long as you're playing and you and your friends are having fun, then you're doing it right, you know. And so, but for me, Pathfinder is a better system. And so I'm always intrigued by dark and creepy things, but I hate horror. Go figure. But this setting really grabbed me when I downloaded. They had a free primer. They said, you know, hey, check it out. If you like it, back it. If you don't, it's fine. And I like that attitude. And so it really struck me. And now that we're talking about it, I remember you saying, because I think I posted on the Discord that I backed it, and you were like, oh, I know that guy. Yada, yada. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if his English is pretty good, I can get him on the channel and we can do
It's
that.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so if
You
you
can do
talk
an
with
interview.
him, Drop a hint.
I'll tell him. I'm sure I can
Yeah,
tell him.
I mean, I like I said, I backed the Kickstarter for my own personal, I might have a small collection of books, one or two, but yeah, the Pathfinder, and I plan on incorporating some of that stuff into my Pathfinder game that I run bi-weekly in my house. But back to you. First of all, I'm going to assume the first RPG you played was probably D&D.
No.
Really? What was your first RPG that you got?
GURPS third edition.
Yes, good man.
Yep.
Oddly enough, I hate third edition. I love fourth edition.
Really?
I just don't like the layout of the books. The mechanics were fine because I've been a GURPS player for years, but fourth edition books sold me. When they did that dragon, I don't know if you remember the dragon book. It was a crossover, light beige cover. It said dragons. Oh, it's on the shelf. I can grab it. But yeah, it was their first fourth edition. It was a crossover. It had the back half of the book was fourth edition, and then they relaunched fourth edition books with the new covers and everything. Yeah, I have a ton of third edition books. I have them all on PDF.
I tell you, GURPS has some of the greatest supplements. Like, especially if the game is about like something historical.
Yep.
Like. They really can't be beat. Like, I loved like the Age of Napoleon book was fantastic. I'm not even that into like muskets and in that age, right? We're talking about like Napoleon obviously, but pre-Civil War to that, and that book is just fantastic. And like GURPS Camelot. Just like amazing. You could just read it. I mean, it's not even that stat heavy at all. It's mostly just the fluff, right?
Yeah, they do. I think I mean, and then there's the GCS, the GURPS character sheet, which is a phenomenal program. So, and then one of my viewers, Steven, like I said, his wife makes a lot of swag for the channel. He made a couple of forms for you.
He did.
That's his jam.
Our form fillable character sheet, he added more skills to it or something.
And then the initiative sheet he did.
Yeah, and then there's like a way to clear it. So you added a button
reset,
to clear macros, stuff like that. Yeah,
cool he's really into that stuff, and that's fun. And he was fun to game with. He's been strangely absent from the channel, but he pops in every so often. I think real life is just busy. But yeah, he's a fun guy, and he loves doing that stuff. So. We've heard about what's coming out, so I got my 3 questions that I always ask every designer. Because first of all, guys like you make guys like me available. You know what I mean? There would be no me without you, because as far as I know, I'm one of the few channels that supports indie publishers. I don't know of a whole ton of other YouTube channels that give any support to non-mainstream games. Like there's Thermivore or whatever his name is. He does a deep dive on one game, but it's usually somewhat mainstream, whereas I focus on all the weird stuff. But I always like to ask these 3 questions. So the first question is, if you could sit down with anybody, past or present, and run a game with them, play a game, whether you're the GM or the player, if you could game with one person from history, past or present, who would it be? Living or dead, doesn't matter.
Boy, that's a good question. I'll stay away from the sentimental type of things because I have a guy who was in my gaming group that passed away. I would say him first, but
you're allowed to.
I would say him, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So he made that much of an impact on you in your life.
Yeah, he was a good friend of ours, and he played with us for a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
super cool. All right. So the second question is, any game, any genre, can be a board game, could be an RPG. What's the one game that you go, man, I wish I would have wrote that? So clearly
Shadow
not
of the Demon Lord. Maybe Shadow of the Demon Lord. I don't know. It's if it's
a good one.
Let me think.
It's a good answer.
These are tough. These are actually tough questions. I would say probably, if I actually thought about it, I would say probably L5R, right?
That's a
I
good
would
answer.
say, I mean, if if John Wick didn't make that roll and keep system, H&H would probably look very different.
Yeah,
Right?
right. Yeah.
So yeah,
On the
I'll give John his due.
There you go. Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. And so then the third one, and this one's always a tough one. You're on an airplane, business trip, family trip, whatever. You're by yourself. Plane's going down. What's the one game in your backpack? One book. You're going to be on this island for the rest of your life. What's the one game you have with you?
I think it's got to be H&H. I can play any game I want.
There you
I
go.
can do anything.
Dave from oh God, I'm drawing a blank now for his game. Dave Silas.
Project Sunflower. Is that what you're talking about?
No. That's Wiki Snapper. T. Dave's. Oh God, we just talked about it. I did it last week. Anyway, his was his.
Oh, the superhero game.
Yeah. There we go. God,
see, I did watch it.
Yeah, there
right?
you go. Thank you. I can't think of the name now. It's not Capes and Cows. It's Meta Humans Rising. There we go. Give a shout out to Dave. His answer I thought was really good. He just said a blank notebook. But then I got to throw it back and say, but you don't have a pen.
Yeah.
He didn't say a pen. He just said a blank notebook.
You'll write the game in the sand, and then
The tide comes in and it's gone.
Heck,
and it was the greatest game
that's
ever.
That's a great answer.
That is a great answer.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, you got all limited time on your hands. You can just create another game.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. How many coconuts do I roll in that? Yeah. How many coconuts do I roll? Is that a 2 coconut or a 3 coconut? Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, those are my weird questions that I like to ask. And I would point out to the community and everyone who watches this in the future that you're very prolific on the channel, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You spend I think you spend more time in my channel.
I like talking about games, and if I find people active in one area talking about games, and I don't find their personalities grating to me, that's a me thing.
Yeah.
Then I will happily jump in and talk about.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's any budding game designers out there. We have hashtag game development or whatever it is in my channel. So you can come in there on the Discord and you can ask questions, and guys like you and there's been a couple others. God, I'm drawing blanks on names. Stephen Chenault, or not Stephen Chenault.
Turner.
Stephen Turner. Thank you. Yeah, he's big in there as well. We'll give help and advice. He's been in the gaming community for aeons. Runs a gaming warehouse over there in merry old England and stuff, and he's a super nice guy, always willing to help, big supporter of the channel. So anybody who's got a budding game design and wants to ask questions, Feral Games Inc., or it's I think Broken Rat Games now, he changed his name, Jay Lasarde, he's big, and he taught himself in design. He's been publishing games for about 20 years now. And he just learned InDesign because he didn't want to pay people, which makes sense, right? You want to keep as much money in house as you can if you can't afford to pay people, and he was in that boat.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did too. I just got InDesign, and when I was practicing, making these other games, right? That's just kind of how I did it.
Yeah, I like the look of H&H, and of course, Caverns Deep and Dungeons Old.
I laid both those out. That was me.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. You did a great job.
I've had one person lay out a book for me, and it was this last Mothership book.
Oh, okay. But that Mothership is a very distinct style, though. If you're going to keep it in that style, you know what I mean?
We still write the games kind of like we like to write them with a narrative.
Well, you should. That's what.
So yeah.
If you're not having fun, then it's called work, and who wants to work?
Yeah, right.
I mean.
Sometimes it feels like work.
Yeah. So, speaking of work, everybody knows my feelings on Kickstarter. I think Kickstarters are for guys like you. They're not for Monty Cook. They're not for anybody.
I have lots of opinions about Kickstarter. We can talk about Kickstarter.
Oh man, I'll get on my rant. Let me break out the soapbox. One of the very first games I I backed on Kickstarter. In fact, it was the first game I backed on Kickstarter years ago when it was first coming out. Was Worlds in Peril, which was a powered by the apocalypse superhero game. And it was, you were a new, and it was written by a guy who was stationed, I think, somewhere in Asia. You know, he lived there. He was like a teacher or something. He was a young guy. And, you know, him and a couple of friends played this game. They used Powered by the Apocalypse as their mechanics. And they, you know, they made this superhero book with playbooks inside of it. It was a one contained book. Was it well done? I think it was. Was it playable? No. It was not a good game. But again, if you're sitting around a table and you're having fun, that's all that matters. And he would have never got that book published any other way if it wasn't for Kickstarter, right? And there was enough people that saw it. It was during that hype when Dungeon World was really big. So anybody, if you put Powered by the Apocalypse on it, it was guaranteed to sell. Kind of like putting 5e on something now. You'll get backers. And so he, you know, he made it and he put out a book, and I think it's a good book. It's just, it's not a play style that I enjoy or whatever, but I'm happy to have the book in my collection. So you being an indie publisher, and I know you and I in confidence had a chat because you weren't feeling it for the 5e book, for Dungeons Deep and Caverns Old. You were at that point where you're about like, I'm going to give up. I'm just going to cancel this. You were, I don't know, you were having a bad day. You turned it around. The Kickstarter did great. I believe I did a little promo for it to help advertise it, and I put it on my channel and stuff. And if one book sold, hey, great. I hopefully more. But, you know, it turned around and it funded and it did it. And I hope so that being said, I think you're somewhere along the same line as me for Kickstarter, the pros and cons. What's your thoughts?
Well, I know you have more of an issue with big companies using Kickstarter as like a pre-order kind of fulfillment system. That really doesn't bother me so much, and the reason I say that is because I don't feel like they're my competition, because I feel like those people are going to get their money anyway, no matter if they are on Kickstarter or their own site. It doesn't really matter.
Barnes and Nobles.
So yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. I have the most problem, and this is kind of going to bring up like a, a philosophy type of thing. I feel like these days Kickstarter is really I'm trying to be careful with how I say this. It is really congested with games and supplements that are a little well, I'm trying to think of the way to say this without being I mean, a lot of them use AI art, a lot of them use a lot of
free art.
Is it something that I should be competing with? Right? I spend a lot of money to pay for art, to pay for all these other things, where my margins are lower, where these people come in and they're flooding. I don't want to say it's shovelware necessarily, but some of it is shovelware.
Yes.
And they just put it out. It's like a 20-page adventure somebody wrote in a night, and then they AI generate some art. They throw it in with Script D or however they lay it out, maybe Affinity if you're lucky, and it's not very good. And that's the people that I have the problem with, because I see like a lot of these projects, they might only get like $5,000, but that's people spending their money on these. Like maybe it's a cheaper price point to get into. It's $5 instead of my game being $10 on digitally. Well, my game's $10 because I spent $5,000 in art. I have to pay off somebody 10% of the Kickstarter because they helped me write it. It's things like that, right? And where these guys, they're making more money per project because of how they've gone about it. And I think I want to go about it the right way. I want to pay people that work with me, as much as I can without like folding myself, right? And I feel like that is is the problem on Kickstarter right now for people in that mid to lower tier kind of, you're going to have $10,000 to $20,000 Kickstarters, maybe 30, maybe 40. You're really, your competition is people like that's bringing down kind of some of those projects. That's my feeling.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on it. In fact, I was looking the other day and I saw one that was clearly AI generated art, and it said it was, and I'm not sure if the governing body that oversees Kickstarter has made it mandatory that they have to post if it's AI art or not.
They're supposed to.
Right.
But how much does Kickstarter keep an eye on things? It's kind of like one of those things that's gotten a little too big for its britches. So there's
no governing body, and that's part of the problem.
I don't think they care either. Really.
No, because they're getting their 7 to 9% off the top. So
they get their money. So.
Well, and here's the thing: you get one Monty Cook Presents, that makes $120,000 or $1 million, whatever. They get 7 to 9% of that, right? But that's a lot of money, And then you get Joe Blow, who made the generic AI generated Chat GPT adventure that he just put in a premise and let it spit out whatever, and now he posts it for $5, but he sells $20,000 worth.
Yeah,
they still get their 7 to 9%, whatever their cut is. Yeah. So they don't care if it's 10 of these.
Say there's 100 of those
for every one Monty Cook,
right?
Or Ulysses Spiel, or Pinnacle, all these big guys that are doing it, they're getting their money. My quandary or my beef comes in with. So here's Earl of Fife Games, small company, puts out one book a year. Let's just say. On average, right?
Yeah.
You put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that one book. You hire people that you feel do good art, that write good words, right? And it's in the line of what you want. So you put a lot of effort into that game, right? And you're a publisher. There's a lot of work involved. There's a lot of late nights, banging your head against the wall because you sent someone, an outline that you wanted them to write, and they gave you something 180 degrees from what you wanted. Now you got to go back. You got to send this terse email. It's a lot of stress that's involved. But that is the nature of the business. That is business in and of itself. Then you have. And I'll just pick on Monty Cook because I love to. They put out their next Strange supplement or their next, I don't even know the name of their system.
Invisible Sun.
Yeah, Invisible Sun.
Whatever.
That sells.
And that's a weird thing. That could go to Kickstarter. I mean, even that, because that's so strange.
But the point is, here's Joe Blow behind the computer going, I'm going to back a game on Kickstarter. Well, this Kickstarter has $300 million in it, and this Kickstarter has 20,000.
Yeah.
What's the better game? Yeah, and I know Monty Cook. I don't know this Jason Duff guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel that games like Monty Cook, Pinnacle, Ulysses Spiel, all these big name companies that are going in there to do Kickstarters, they can call up any publisher in the world and say, I want to put out a book. And they'll go, okay, how many copies do you want? I want 20,000 copies. Okay, send us a check next week. Whereas you call up that same publisher and they're going to be like, I'm sorry, who are you? No, I can't. Click, and so that's where Kickstarter should be, I feel, is the little guys. If you want to put out a shit book and you want your name tied to that, that's fine, because eventually people are going to realize this is garbage. It's AI art, it's Chat GPT generated or whatever. It's garbage, and so you're going to get 1 or 2 Kickstarters and the rest are going to fail. Because people are eventually going to get smart too.
Yeah, maybe. I also kind of I talk to a lot of people that aren't especially my friends that I game with. Most of them aren't in the publishing arena at all, and they don't know one writer from a next.
And they might have general ideas. Too much information, right? We're too close to the industry.
They might have the bigger publishers, but that's what I'm saying. Like people okay, you make a substandard product is maybe the people who bought it last time are going to know, but there's a whole new I just didn't look at Kickstarter that month, right? I mean, there's a lot of ways you miss something. Now, even I'm more in tune to different games that come out than anybody I know, I think. And I even miss stuff on Kickstarter. It's like, oh,
can't
I
keep
would
up
back
with
that if I saw it, and I did.
you can't
know?
keep up with it because every day there's
Yeah.
and then there's God, we won't even get into board games because that's 100 times worse,
Yeah.
and or computer games, which is 100 times that.
Yeah.
So but I mean, Kickstarter to me, and like I said, I've gotten off the Kickstarter train. I'll wait to see it in Drive Through RPG. There's very few games that I Star Anvil Studios, I've supported their stuff. My friend Jason at Broken Rat Games, I'll support his stuff when it goes to Kickstarter. And that's not pandering. I generally like your stuff. I've got all the PDFs. I need to print them and put them into one big book. I think that would be super cool to spiral bound it and have it at the, just
eventually
like
I want to do an adventure anthology.
Right,
Like,
that would be super
cool.
cool.
Yeah,
but like the GM little book and the sci-fi book and the spaceship and the adversaries, because I think you've got one for sci-fi and you've got one for fantasy. I have both of those, so I like
those are small bestiaries.
Yeah, I love supporting those on Drive Through. It's my one-stop shop, and I'm running out of space. Space is at a premium, so my wife. I mean, you could see one of the shelves is. I'm waiting to hear a crack one night. I'm like, oh shit. But I'm always like, I can get one more book in. I can get one more book. Yeah, but that's 35 years of collecting right there, and I lost about half that much again in a divorce. So.
Took your books too? Ouch.
No, I had to sell them to pay child support.
That's it worse. Ouch.
Oh, yeah, it hurt.
Yeah.
I had everything for World of Darkness back in the day for Vampire and Werewolf. I mean, I had every book, every pamphlet, everything. And I had to sell it all to pay child support. So it's a long, ugly story we won't get into.
Yeah.
So with everything coming, here's another good one. I'm going to add this to my list of 3. It's going to be 4 now. One game designer you could work with, past or present, living or dead.
Game designer.
Or company.
That's a tough one. I mean, John Wick's the obvious answer, but I don't think I'm going to go there. I think let me think about that one. Company wise, I would really like to. Wow. Greg Stafford. I'll say Greg Stafford. How's that?
Yeah, super nice guy. I had dinner with him a couple of times. Brian, Brian, he's run some games for you on your channel. Yeah, super nice guy, great guy. Brian had him on he had a podcast years ago called 2D6 Feet in a Random Direction, which I was on a couple of times. And yeah, Greg's super awesome guy. A loss to the community for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, super nice guy. Chaosium's a bunch of good people too. So, yeah, I don't play Call of Cthulhu. I have 30 years of Call of Cthulhu books sitting back there, and then of course Detweiler and God, what is it? What's it called?
Mike Mason. If you're talking about Arc Dream and
yeah, Arc Dream Publishing. There, I have all their stuff. I'm trying to think.
Delta
it's not
Green.
Call of Cthulhu. Delta Green. I couldn't think of the name. Delta Green. I don't play those games, but I support them. Arc Dream does great stuff.
Delta Green's cool. I like that.
I've played Delta Green. My friend Darren here in Minnesota, he ran it for us, a short campaign, and I had so much fun in it because Darren is a phenomenal GM. He just has shitty players, but aside from me, I think I'm a good player when I'm into the game. When I'm not into the game, I'm very disruptive, and I usually bow out 1 or 2 sessions in. When can we get you to run a game on the channel? On the Discord?
Yeah, probably. I could probably do that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Whenever we can.
you tell me when you want to make it happen. I would love to play in a game.
You want me to run H&H?
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
else?
No,
it's
H&H.
funny. I'm not running any H&H right now at all. Right, and that's kind of unusual for me. I ran it for when I was play testing it, it's weird. I'm a guy like that likes a lot of different stuff, lot of different
Boy, do I,
games.
yeah,
So I'm not even running my own game,
right
right?
up.
People like usually they're running their
You know,
own games over and over and over and over and
I
over again.
just
And I did
realized
that in
this.
playtesting.
It just clicked that I'm in your Eclipse Phase game. I was
Yeah,
like, but I never think of you as Earl of Fife or you're Tetnack
right.
on. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
I think of you as. I don't think of you as
yeah,
Jason. It's Tetnack, and I'm like, wait a
yeah.
minute, that's the same guy. I just realized.
It's the same person. Yes,
Yeah, small
it's
world.
me. Yep.
Yeah, and we're having fun. It sucks. Our schedule's kind of out of whack here,
Yeah, it's
unfortunately.
kind of a
Well,
weird couple weeks. We'll
yeah,
figure it out. But
yeah.
yeah,
I'm excited though, because my uplifted gorilla is a beast. No pun intended. Did
yeah.
you see the Octo I printed that I posted?
I did. Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
So they sent me that for backing the character creator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Nice.
was a STL they sent, and it printed out really well. I'm gonna paint it up, and I might just have to switch to an uplifted octopus.
Hey,
If
you can switch
if
your
we do a
bodies
lot of
as much as you
space
want.
stuff, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because you're obviously octopus and the gravity doesn't do very well.
Yeah.
I guess I could get a robo body to put myself in or whatever. Well, it'd be my
Do
consciousness anyway.
yeah.
There's
Eclipse
so
phase
much
is
stuff.
probably Eclipse phase is one of my favorite settings.
Oh, that game
It's
is
just
crazy.
I just love it. Yeah.
And I do think the second edition rules are much better than the first. It's better written.
It's easier to do the things that you want to do. So Eclipse phase first edition, it was like, oh my god, I got to re-sleeve. I've got to recalculate all these stats.
Right.
I got to do
Now
all
it's
this. Oh
cut
my
and dry.
goodness. Now they're all kind of separate.
Yeah.
Like the morph doesn't really add to your stats, it adds to your traits.
Right.
So you keep that all separate.
Yeah.
It's very clean the way
And
they
I'll
did
say
it, right?
your Foundry, what you're doing in Foundry is pretty cool because it's pretty simple. I mean, as far as running
Yeah,
it
I mean
through
that's
Foundry, you didn't design that, right?
oh no
Yeah.
no.
So
There's a so Eclipse Phase is all Creative Commons non commercial.
yeah,
So somebody there's not an official Foundry version.
right.
That's
There's just
just a
somebody
version somebody came up
forked
with.
this.
And so it's not even like publicly downloadable off the Founder like on
Right.
Forge or anything. You can't pull that system down unless you have the manifest to do it. So it's kind of, and I know they're working on another one. I'll never get to it, but you know.
Well, I mean, the guys behind the game are amazing, super
Yeah.
nice. And like I said, I bought the first edition book, and then I saw they were doing a Kickstarter years ago, and I said, well, I love this setting. It's, I can play an uplifted animal. I can be an android. I can be a synth. I can just be a brain in a box. Whatever you want to do. The rules were not for me, but the setting was amazing. And I had played a lot of GURPS Transhuman Space, so I was kind of in that mindset, And so when Eclipse Phase came about, I was sold. And then of course I went in for the Kickstarter and got the physical book. And evidently I backed the character creator and don't remember it, but maybe
Yeah.
it was clearly I did because I just did my. Paid for everything.
Sitting right in front of me.
Yeah. Well, so for
been
those that
reading it.
don't know, Jason is running a Wednesday night game for a few of us over on his channel, and it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying myself. We've had basically 1.5 sessions. We had an impromptu
like a
session 0,
thing, yeah.
which was fun. I mean, got to meet everybody, and then
Just
of course.
putting our characters together and stuff.
Yeah, it was really fun. The guy with the bad New York accent kills me. But that's fine. It's pretty funny, and I have to resist the urge to not talk normally. 'Cause I live in Minnesota where these people speak weird anyway. Borrow me this. That's a big common phrase. Or oofta. That's another one. Or ope.
Oofta is my wife's from Minnesota.
That's right. That's what you were saying in the group there. So if you swing through, I know it's going to be a trying time, but are you going to be in Duluth or are you going to be down in the cities?
No, we'll be down. Southwestern.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So nowhere near Duluth.
Farmland area.
Yeah. So, well, I know it's trying time, but best
Yeah, yeah,
wishes and all of that, you know.
Mm.
Anything you want to tell us, like where you're at on socials? Are you on Facebook? Are you on TikTok?
Yeah, so yeah, you can find us on some of the, we do have a Facebook page. You can just search for Earl of Fife Games, but really the best way to get a hold of me is coming through Discord. You can do that a couple ways. You can go to fifegames.com. There's a link for our Discord. You can get there. I have a whole bunch of other things. We do have a Patreon that I don't do anything on that doesn't charge you. So I mean, there's ways,
Right.
right? There'll be a bunch of links I think that
Yeah,
John's
I'm gonna
put
put like
into the.
you can get to you from Mr. Mean
So,
Speaks.
yeah.
So there's
Yeah, you
ways
can
to
talk
get.
to me on his Discord too. I'm
Yeah.
there. Like if there are other publishers here, I have a wealth of information. I think like I just I'm happy to give anybody advice on publishing in general or games in general. I'm a pretty opinionated person. I try not to be too annoying. But yeah, so yeah, I've got 4 successful Kickstarters under my belt, and kind of I've learned from other people. I will tell like I when I first did my first Kickstarter, I teamed up with Nord Games.
Mm-hmm.
They're primarily a 5e publisher, but Chris at Nord is just he helped me out so much, kind of understanding the ins and outs of what I needed to do to make myself successful on Kickstarter. And
Yeah.
if you're into 5e or and Nord does a lot of not system agnostic stuff too, so I would really suggest going and checking their stuff out. They make some really good stuff, and Chris is a great guy. So
Yeah, it's one of
yeah,
the things in our community, in the role playing community, is I think overall it's a lot of nice people. It's a lot of good people that are
Yep.
just willing to help and want to see everybody succeed. You know, and I think that's just it's a great thing. I'm very blessed that I got guys like you on the channel that talk to people, and you know you're very active. You know, it's just super cool to see that. Hey, buddy, are you getting ready for bed? Oh my gosh, this is my little guy. He's a skeleton. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Say hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Are you going to bed?
Hi.
Yeah.
You going night night?
Yes.
Okay, give me a kiss. Good night. My wife found those at Aldi, and she just had to buy them.
Nice.
I'm like,
That's
okay,
perfect.
whatever. His face is dirty. I'm like, oh. And she's gonna let him go to bed. I'm like, wash his face. But all right, my friend, we've been on here for almost an hour. We got some cool stuff coming up. I'm sure you'll let us know. You'll always promote your stuff on the channel, so I appreciate that. I'll always promote it. Thank you so much for spending some time chatting with me.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy talking about this stuff, and
well, I think you're a phenomenal game designer. I like everything I've seen in H&H and all the splat books and stuff. So keep it going, keep it coming. I'm very excited about the Roman space thing because I know you're a big 40K fan of at least the lore. And
I am a huge 40K fan.
Did you watch the movie I sent you?
I have to admit, I did not. I have to.
Oh, dude, you got. It's
to.
actually pretty good.
Yeah,
Fan made.
Yeah, those are really good. There's been some really good ones. The Starties one that's out there is really good.
It's amazing.
That
guy got hired by Games Workshop.
He did
when they started their Warhammer channel, which I do. Yeah. Oh, so it's funny. I don't play 40K, can't stand it, but I love the role playing game, which is Cubicle 7. And they do amazing stuff. Yeah, and the new, they just announced the new Imperialis Maledictum book. I'm so all over that.
Yeah,
I love Warhammer Fantasy.
I've been reading more about Wrath and Glory too, and
I can't do it. It's just not my jam. Not my jam. D6 game.
I like it.
I can't. I just.
Yeah, but it's different. It's a dice pool. It's a dice. Anything with a dice pool.
Sure. I get it. I have a hard time that they came up with the first Wrath and Glory and then they backpedaled and changed the mechanics in the system, and it's a whole new game now.
Yeah, that's because it was originally released by someone else, right?
Yeah.
The guys who do Dark Eye. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, Ulysses Spiel. Yeah. Dark Eye, one of my all-time favorite games, by the way. It's a German game. I'm half German. My dad's German off the boat, so.
I have it too. I have that game.
Das Schwag. It's a great game. Well, that's awesome. Go watch that video.
will.
We gotta. I'll have to run an Imperial Maledictum game for you, because that's.
I would be happy to play.
I see. I'm always.
I've run that. I've run that.
I
game
know.
too,
I wanted to play in your game so bad, but I think it was an in-person game, or it was you were full, or it was at the end.
It was
or
just full. Yeah.
yeah. So when you said you were going to run Eclipse Phase, I was like, I'm in, because that's another one that I love to play. I don't want to GM it. It's so weird because I consider myself a GM first and foremost. I'm not a player. I don't play well with others, as the saying goes. I'm very much a control freak. And that's from many years being in the military and a police officer. I'm just used to being in charge. And so when I have to sit back and bite my tongue, it's hard. But if you have a good group, like our Eclipse Phase, I think we have a good group. Everybody synergizes really well, and you're a very good storyteller. So it makes it fun, and I can play in that kind of environment where everybody's creative. That's super cool. And so I like games that facilitate that, and I think Imperium Maledictum is going to be like that. I'm playing in a Warhammer game at the convention in a week and a half at Gamehole Con. There's no Imperium Maledictum games being ran, unfortunately, and I just don't have the time to GM.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's a great game.
Yep.
Those
that don't know.
Cubicle 7 makes really good games.
And they just keep pumping out the hits.
Yeah,
I mean, the new supplement.
I mean, that's a conversation for a different day, but there's these big companies that get all these IPs, right? Free League, Modifius, them.
Modifius.
Yeah, that's their thing, right?
Chris Birch is just a monster. I'm supposed to be getting a review copy of the Roman Invictus or Invictus Rome or whatever it is. Cohorts and cohorts or
something or another. Yeah.
Cohorts Invictus.
I backed it. What is the name?
At the time I couldn't back it. When it came out, I was in between jobs or I think some medical issues with my wife were happening, and so I just didn't have the money. But I reached out to Chris because I've supported Conan. Mutant Chronicles is one of my favorite IPs. I have every version of the Mutant Chronicles RPG in my collection. Conan, Mutant Chronicles, Infinity. I'm a huge Infinity miniatures fan. The RPG, I have every book for the RPG. So I've backed a lot of his stuff. And so he knows my name. He's seen some of my reviews. I do demo work for them sometimes. So when I reached out to him, I was like, hey, my kid's going through some medical issues. My wife's having medical issues. I couldn't back it because I backed out. I originally had signed up for it, and then shit hit the fan, as the saying goes, so I backed out. He sent me a personal message. He's like, hey, what's going on? Why are you backing out? And I was like, well, and I told him, he says, I'll put a copy in the mail to you when it finally.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, thank you, Chris, if you watch this by chance. He's a super nice guy. Does amazing, him and his, I don't know if it's his wife or his girlfriend. She's the blonde lady you'll see. She's dressed up like a commissar. They do cosplay.
Yes.
Yeah, and they have some amazing costumes. But Chris always dresses up like an Imperial commissar. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, he's a huge fan of Warhammer as well. And so yeah, I'm excited to see what Cubicle 7 keeps doing. But Modifius grabbing up licenses left and right. What's Discworld is their new one. They got Discworld.
Yeah, that's their thing, and Cubicle 7 them and Free League. That's kind of their thing. Free League's a little different, but yeah.
Yeah. It's a great time to be a gamer. PDFs are so prolific, and game designers are. I don't want to say a dime a dozen because that belittles it, but it's so cool that we have so many choices for gaming. Because if you're a non-D&D gamer, I've got, I can play D&D in Heroes and Hardships, and it's a much better mechanic, in my opinion. So, or I can play L5R because I don't like the new version of L5R. I just don't like the funky dice and everything. To me, it's D10s and a dice pool, and we go with it. So if I want to continue my L5R campaign, I don't need to wait for new books. I've got everything I need in H&H, so that's the cool part. And I can just reference the old books because all the clans are out. Every book is out. It's just do it in H&H, and it's not hard. So thank you so much for making a cool game that I can run just about anything in. So I appreciate that. But I think I'm going to take my fat ass to bed because I'm old, and I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and
Of course.
you are free to post this on all your socials wherever you like. I'll get this uploaded tonight, and again, as always, I'll see you on the channel. And it doesn't sound like we're playing this Wednesday, and I'm out next Wednesday. So the Wednesday after, I'll be raring to go. I'm jonesing. I got to get my fix. And then hopefully we'll see what we see. But thank you, my friend. Appreciate it, and you're welcome on the channel anytime. When you start your next Kickstarter, let me know. We'll do a promo video for it. You can talk all about it, and maybe we'll post it everywhere it needs to be posted. So I thank you for your time, and I don't know what else to say, man. You're super cool, and I appreciate you. So
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm going to end this, and I'll talk to you as we hang up here. All right? Everybody that's watching, thank you. Like and subscribe. Go check out Jason's stuff, Earl of Fife Games. He's on Drive-Thru RPG. We'll put all the links down in the doobly-doo. As always, peace and hair grease. And remember, Mr. Mean says, be nice.